And I forgot to mention after Green Forest that I got a glitch where the music didn't play, and this happened. So that was weird. Now for Wacky Workbench. You know, I was pretty excited to see this level because I always wondered if they could make Wacky Workbench's concept fun. And it is technically fun bouncing on these things when you're not, because in the original you would just be bounced up to a high route and then you'd have to take forever going left and right to finally go back down to progress with the level. There's a level where the lower route was the one you had to stay on, and there wasn't really a higher route because you couldn't progress to the end from there. But unfortunately, you know what they did with the Wacky Workbench concept for this level? Beat 'em up level. And it's a maze too. As in, it's got samey level design where it's like constrained hallways. Where if you decide to backtrack, if you backtrack by accident because you didn't realize that you were going the way you had already been when trying to look for a switch to progress, then you're going to end up backtracking through the level. And like I hit the switch here, but I don't know what I did. This level is literally just homie attack all the enemies, and it's just a waste, really. I first went into it with Mephiles, and he's supposed to, you'd think that he would be a shadow clone because he formed himself from Shadow's shadow. He doesn't have a homing attack, so how is he supposed to attack the enemies? With short-range melee attacks that suck? He was a major disappointment. If I wanted to play as a character that could levitate, I'd play as Silver or Nicole. So it doesn't help that his voice clips are extremely obnoxious and repetitive. I miss the days when games didn't feel obligated to have annoying voice clips for every single thing, and could just have the characters just shut up and do stuff without repeating the same sentences over and over again. So yeah, this level was a disappointment. And of course, part of the reason I took so long with it was because I got stuck at one point, because I couldn't find all the enemies. Because I didn't realize that I could progress from a certain point, and that it wasn't just have me walk into a wall, that it wasn't a dead end, but I could actually keep on going forwards and fall down from there to find some more enemies. What is it with this level, with so many levels in this game, and thinking that forcing you to fight enemies to progress with a Sonic level is a good idea? You know, Sonic 06 wasn't the perfect ideal for level design, guys. Even, like, the classic days never did that. And even the adventure games didn't really do that, aside from the mech levels in SA2, which weren't even supposed to be, like, regular Sonic levels to begin with. And I'm not sure why they couldn't have, like, compromised, because they seem to be only using the American music, or maybe it's the Japanese music. I think it's the American music of Wacky Workbench. Maybe they could have changed the music, like in a different, like when you transition to a different part of it. Or maybe like, I think playing both of them at the same time would be a little overwhelming. And your garden can actually become full of chaos strides. It can't spawn anymore. You know, this wouldn't have happened if it would just spawn the golden fruit already. I don't want to spend too much time in here or Nicole will die and then all the stats I put into her will be for to waste. Meteor Herd is the biggest example of why not having a hint system breaks treasure hunting. This place is gigantic, and the only reason I was able to beat it, because I was on the verge of giving up after a while, was because I died for a second time after having gotten 2 of them, and for some reason the radar glitched out and thought that I'd gotten only 1 of them, but when I found the last one, which I could have sworn wasn't in a place that it was, I could have, like, if it was there before I died, I'm pretty sure I would have found it before dying. Well, I'm not complaining, because this glitch actually caused me to win the level. I'm not complaining. It's just, I guess that's how you're supposed to beat it? I don't know. This level really needed hint systems. Like Tickle, showing you where to go, so you're not just running in circles because the radar happens to be blinking. And some of the enemies, like the artificial chaos, are really annoying. They never trapped you inside of them in the adventure games, and for good reason. Did they? I thought they just attacked you and that was it. And it doesn't help that the frame rate for this place is kind of bad, and that makes it more slippery to control your character. Westopolis was a lot less terrible than I remembered it to be the last time I played it. Although I still really hate the random lasers that come out of the sky, and you always run into them because they appear too quickly for you to react. They were in the original game too, and you know, you would have thought they would have removed the biggest complaint about this level. So I hate that. It's shocking that Westopolis is the first level in Shadow the Hedgehog when you have such blatantly cheap lasers coming out of nowhere all the time. But like the other problem I have is that there's so many enemies, black and red aliens in a Sonic game, that take multiple hits to kill. Although it's just a matter of mashing the A button for slightly less long. I can't stress enough how much I love the homing attack in this game. When you have a few forced combat sections that shouldn't be there, it is surprisingly exhilarating to be mashing the A button and just Sonic is just conveniently going to every enemy that you want to go. Although you might have to worry about making sure you don't air dash into a pit, but usually the platforms are large enough that it's not really a problem. I really hate the very long, boring skydiving sections. You never really feel like you're going fast enough when you're skydiving, even when you're holding down the acceleration button. So it's pretty boring, but at least it controls well. At least I'm actually capable of lining myself up so that I can collect all of the rings. It's not like in the boost games and in Shadow where you pretty much can't control yourself while skydiving at all. I just think they go on for far too long, and it's definitely not a good start to the level, considering that you already started the level not in control, in a scripted sequence. But now you have to deal with like practically a loading screen after a giant loading screen already happened, until you can finally play the level. But like, obviously I have a few major issues with it, like the lasers and the enemies. But it was much better than I remembered it to be. It wasn't an atrocious level by any means. Like I would just run ahead, and like there was some platforming, it was fast enough. I don't like how it's hard to tell when there's a downward slope ahead of me and when I should jump because I don't want to run off the edge. That's why I was jumping a lot in this level instead of rolling down slopes to go faster than I could have. I wasn't expecting this to be amazing. It is a level from Shadow the Hedgehog after all, but they did the best that they could with it. Aside from the lasers that really should have been removed, and the forced combat which shouldn't have been there, and the skydiving sections which are boring as hell. Twinkle Park. This level is a faithful recreation of the level from SA1, which includes the bumper car course. And this is how you do the bumper car right. Aside from the drift turning extremely sharply. Like, even the drift in SA2 is a lot better. And that drift was kind of weird because it didn't have its own button. It was the acceleration button. But in general, like, this is how you do the bumper cart right. Although it's kind of weird that you have to hold up on the control stick to go forwards when there's also an acceleration button, and you basically have to have your finger in your hand in sort of lobster claw way because the drift is on the X button and the accelerate is on the B button. And this can also cause you to accidentally jump by hitting the A button between those two, and jumping over a ramp to your death. See, this is why you weren't allowed to jump in the bumper car. So it has problems, it's kind of quirky to control, but I would take this over the bumper car in SA1 any days. Because, for one, it feels fast right from the start. It's not like you're forced to collect 1,000 rings before you can move in remotely fast, and forced to hit dash pads in order to move in remotely fast. It's not like you are forced to completely let go of the acceleration button in order to turn, losing all of your momentum in the process. You still lose some momentum when you turn, especially when you drift, which kind of defeats the purpose of drifting to me, honestly. But at the very least, it feels fast right from the start. It's not extremely stiff to control, moving extremely slowly left to right. It just, for another thing, you can actually go through the enemies to run them over and kill them every single time in this bumper cart, rather than the game randomly deciding to let you lose rings from running into a coconut. And you never have to worry about losing your rings from being bumped into by the bumper cars that are racing after you. So yeah, this is better in almost every way than the tedium of the SA1 bumper cart, except for the fact that twice, in fact, I died during the loop-de-loop. And I don't understand why this wasn't scripted. Was I supposed to be holding certain directions on the analog stick at certain times, and that's what killed me? I don't understand why this wasn't scripted, when even in SA1, it was impossible to die here. At least I think it was anyways. I've never heard about it. So yeah, that was really annoying, especially since, just like in the original game, because fuck fixing the problems of the original, they don't have any checkpoints in the race car course. So if you die, you have to start all the way from the beginning of the level all over again. And again, fuck fixing the problems of the original level, because just like in that original level, the race course drags on for far too long. Every time that you think, like every time you beat it, every time you go through it, you think that it's going to be over earlier than it is. It always feels like it drags on far too long, to the point where the race course seems to be the majority of the time you spent in the level. And it's fun, but it doesn't make you want to go back to it multiple times in a row if it takes such a long... Like, why does it have to take so long to get to the level part of the level? And once I got to the level part of the level, there are some problems. Why do I have to awkwardly position myself into a teleporter to go to Act 1? Why can't I just naturally fall into it through a hole? It's annoying having to very precisely navigate yourself into the center of the teleporters to warp yourself to Act 1. At the very least, they bother to change the music to Act 2, but like, why don't you spawn inside of the roller coaster? Like, that was one of the memorable set pieces of Twinkle Park, and in keeping with this game's theme of excluding memorable set pieces, it's gone here. There's also forced combat in the bowling area, instead of letting you roll into pins to progress. And sometimes you have to jump into Thundershoot panels in order to get rid of the gates. So that's another memorable set piece ignored. I would have liked to have been able to roll into bowling pins to progress. And the music of this place makes me happy because of the remixes. Like, it's pretty cool how they sound like with actual instruments rather than being extremely synthesized like some of the tracks in SA1 were. But the end of Act 1's remix sounds too high-pitched and screechy, although maybe it was because the volume was too low for me to completely enjoy it. The level's fine, a direct rip-off of SA1's level design, which can only be so great. And that's why flying around it with Tails, breaking it, feels so great, because now you finally get to know to break Twinkle Park with Tails. You can fly straight to the goal as soon as you get past the race course with Tails. So that's pretty cool. problem is the bumper car course still drags on far too long though, and again, its scripted loop can kill you. And that's especially annoying in the Flickies mission. When I got to Act 2 with all the Flickies, both times that I tried this, the frame rate completely shits itself to the point of guaranteeing that you're going to get hit. And only once you get hit can you finally start moving at a decent pace and actually playing the game again. And unfortunately, getting hit causes your Flickies to clip through the ceiling so that it's impossible to get all of them back. And I tried as hard as I could to not get hit the second time, but I guess my homing attack just didn't want to work because the frame rate was so awful. I just kept air dashing instead, and eventually got hit by the projectiles that these enemies really shouldn't have. So I went through the trouble of getting some more Flickies, and when I flew around, I apparently found a goal ring that wasn't transparent. So I decided to go into it, and it forced me all the way back to the start of the level before I hit a checkpoint. I rage quit after that and didn't play this level again until the next day. The race is fun, but it drags on far too long, but I don't want to redo it so many times in a row. And having to turn around and collect Flickies in the bumper cart is very annoying. It takes you out of the experience when you have to stop racing ahead to turn around. It's like having to collect the medals in the day stages of Unleashed. When you backtrack to get more Flickies, the forced combat and Thundershoot panel gates reappear dickishly, forcing you to do it all again. Well, I don't entirely remember if there is forced combat or if it's just Thundershoot panel gates. They both look exactly the same anyways, which is confusing. The sudden appearance of the flippers and bumpers that were never in SA1. The appearance of these things is really annoying, because they always hit you all over the place, and that can potentially send you into an enemy or projectile, getting you hit, and forcing you to go through the tedious process of jumping very precisely into tiny Flickies that are flying at that to collect them again. There were plenty of problems that I had. Like I got a shield long after I needed it. I don't know why there isn't a shield at the beginning of every Flicky mission, just for the sake of your convenience. At least hide it somewhere, so that it requires some skill to get to. And later, I clipped through the floor when I was trying to progress through the level normally. It's a good thing that I managed to land on some actual floor. I eventually, at the very end of the Flickies mission, I flew around and I found that the goal ring was transparent and in a different place, but it still worked. It's a good thing that I decided to try to go into it even though it was transparent. That was convenient. Oh yeah, and Emerald has a homing attack, so he's a good character to play as. I just don't understand why they gave him electronic beeping voice clips when he very obviously spoke with dialogue in the one game where he was a big focus. There's also Sonic Advance 3, but he didn't really feel like the actual character there because he never talked, so... I don't know, this level, it's fine. It's definitely how I'm going to play SA1's version of Twinkle Park from now on, because it makes the race course that takes fucking forever actually fun while it's taking forever. But it removes some memorable set pieces, and the bumpers and flippers sending you around all over the place are really annoying. At the very least, its Flickies mission is plenty playable. Just don't bother trying to collect Flickies in the race course, because if you go to Act 2 with all the Flickies, the frame rate will completely shit itself and force you to get hit and lose all of them anyways. Which sucks because there's barely enough enemies in Act 2 to give you all the Flickies, especially since, again, not every enemy drops Flickies. I think it's random. Not random to the point where it becomes impossible to beat a level if you're really unlucky, but... It's better than Rusty Ruin and no, I beat Diamond Dust Zone, but...